Is the Buffalo Bills offensive personnel better in 2022 compared to 2021? We're going to break it down today on Locked On Bills.
You are Locked On Bills, your daily Buffalo Bills podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Bills Mafia? It's Joe Marino from the Draft Network, and I'm your host of Locked On Bills. Happy Thursday to you, and thank you for making Locked On Bills your first listen every day, or if you're joining us on the YouTube channel, your first watch every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Blue Nile. Make your moments sparkle with jewelry from BlueNile.com, and Locked On Sports listeners get $50 off purchases of $500 or more. This podcast exclusive includes engagement rings. Use code LOCKEDON at checkout. So on the podcast today, I want to explore the Bills' offensive personnel and go position by position, quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, and offensive line, and consider whether or not the personnel is better this year compared to last year. And last offseason, we had a lot of conversations about this football team, and it was centered around if they're returning 21 of 22 starters and the depth is pretty similar, did the Bills actually get better during the offseason? And I talked a lot about how younger players improving and taking a step and more maturity and time on task together and continuity overall with the scheme and coaching would lead to a better football team despite the players being the same. Well, this year, it's not the case. The players are different in a lot of spots on this football team. And I see most position groups looking better and maybe even some that I think are a little bit worse. And so we're going to explore all of that today offensively. Tomorrow, we will do the defensive side of the football. And by the end of the next 2 days, we'll be able to answer the question, are the Bills better personnel-wise in 2022 compared to 2021? And if so, what position groups? So let's do it. Let's start with the quarterback position, where in 2021, the Bills' quarterback room was Josh Allen, Mitchell Trubisky, and Davis Webb. In 2022, it's a really different looking group. It's Josh Allen, the starter's the same, Case Keenum as the backup quarterback, and Matt Barkley as kind of your QB3. Now, Josh Allen is returning as a starter, obviously. But is the depth behind him better? Is Keenum and Barkley better than Trubisky and Webb? I have my palms to the air. Like, I don't know. Keenum is a more longer tenured player in the NFL that has had some level of success in challenging situations for the most part throughout his career, where Mitchell Trubisky, high pick, right? Number 2 pick in the draft, and didn't necessarily meet expectations with the Bears, but they still had some level of success. I think Trubisky is a more talented quarterback, but is Keenum more equipped to step in and play at a reasonable level? It's tough for me to tell. I think it's very, very, very close. I don't think I don't think Matt Barkley is a better player than Davis Webb. I think that is decisively Davis Webb, both from a skill level and for a what he means to Josh Allen level. And I know that Matt Barkley can do a lot of that stuff, but he's not Davis Webb. So I'm going to call this a push. And I know that that's a very boring start to this conversation. I will not do any more pushes in this series today on the offensive side of the football. I have them as either better or worse. But I think quarterback is a push because it's hard for me to say for sure that Trubisky is a better player than Keenum. in terms of the role that they're asked to fill as the Bills' backup quarterback. If you were starting a team, you'd obviously want Trubisky. If you're looking for a starter, you'd ask for Trubisky. But in the backup role, maybe you'd rather have Keenum, just based on his time in the league and experiences and what that could mean if he actually had to play. So we'll call that a push. And if I had to lean anywhere, I would probably say worse, because there's a case to be made that Trubisky is a more dynamic player, and I think that Davis Webb is a better player than Matt Barkley. So if there's a lean, it's definitely that it's worse. But again, this is one of those position groups where it's really about your starter. It's about Josh Allen. And Josh Allen is a tier 1 NFL starting quarterback. And hopefully we don't have to watch any other quarterback play this year, except for Case Keenum kneeling down some plays at the end of the game to milk clock. So let's move on to running back, where in 2021, the room was Devin Singletary, Zach Moss, Matt Breida, Tywan Jones. In 2022, 3 of the 4 are the same in Singletary, Moss, and Jones, but you're now swapping out James Cook for Matt Breida. And I'm fully aware that James Cook has never played a down in the NFL. Fully aware of it. But I'm also quite comfortable in saying that he's a better player than Matt Breida, where Matt Breida has one redeeming quality. It's his ability to run fast. That's it. Vision, ball security, hands, none of it's there with any level of consistency at all. I'm a lot more comfortable with what the Bills have in James Cook than I ever was with Matt Breida. And so, because I think Cook is a better player than Breida, and everything else is the same, with reason to believe that Zach Moss will be a better version of himself this year, based on him not being injured for the first time in his NFL career entering a season, and the presence of Duke Johnson, I think this running back room is better in 2022 than it was in 2021. Whether you're ready to pop the question or you're celebrating a milestone moment, find jewelry as unique as her with the modern convenience of online shopping at BlueNile.com. You can create the engagement ring of her dreams. Blue Nile has simple online tools that let you choose the diamond shape, size, and clarity, as well as setting, and then Blue Nile's bench of jewelers will handcraft her perfect engagement ring, making sure that each ring is one of a kind. Or you can celebrate life's special moments with fine jewelry, but maybe you want to do that, but you're having trouble choosing. Well, you're in luck, because Blue Nile has jewelry experts on hand 24/7, available via phone or chat to help you find a memorable gift at every budget. Make your moment sparkle with jewelry from BlueNile.com, and Locked On Sports listeners get $50 off purchases of $500 or more. This podcast exclusive includes engagement rings. Use code Locked On. That's code Locked On. Plus, every order is insured, ships free, and arrives in discreet packaging that won't give away what's inside. Shop stress-free and find your forever piece. Go to BlueNile.com today. So we've done quarterback, we've done running back. Let's do the tight end position now. In 2021, this room was Dawson Knox and Tommy Sweeney. That was it. That was the whole thing. And then you guys remember late in the season, after that Panthers game, the Bills only dressed one tight end by choice. Don't think I've ever seen that before in the NFL. This year, it's Dawson Knox and Tommy Sweeney, plus O.J. Howard. And this goes without saying that the presence of O.J. Howard obviously makes this group better. But O.J. Howard is your tight end too compared to Tommy Sweeney. He just brings a lot more to the table. I've said this a few times, and I want to reiterate it. O.J. Howard's a really good blocking tight end. That was arguably his best ability at Alabama. His ability to block and do so from a variety of alignments, whether that's flexed out in the slot, bunch sets, out of the backfield, or as an inline tight end. He's a good blocker. but he's also a really dynamic receiving threat. And I know that he's not been a consistent player in the NFL. He's had plenty of flashes, but overall, he's not met expectations of a first-round tight end. Injuries have gotten in the way of that as well. But there's no doubt in my mind that he's an upgrade from Tommy Sweeney as the tight end too. And Tommy Sweeney's he's still there. If the Bills roster 3 tight ends, I'd imagine it would be Tommy Sweeney. So the Bills tight end room is better in 2022 compared to 2021 in terms of personnel. Let's move on to wide receiver. The main cast of characters at wide receiver in 2021, Stefon Diggs, Gabriel Davis, Cole Beasley, Emmanuel Sanders, Jake Kumaro, Marquez Stevenson. In 2022, Stefon Diggs and Gabriel Davis remain. Marquez Stevenson remains. So does Jake Kumaro. But instead of Cole Beasley, you have Jamison Crowder. Instead of Emmanuel Sanders, you have Khalil Shakir. And then you also have Tavon Austin, who's been recently added to this mix. And I'll tell you what, I listened to Tavon Austin in his press conference and his session with Chris Brown from earlier this week. That guy sounds like he's pretty hungry. And he's got a lot of confidence. And he said that he's healthy for the first time in a while. And he's getting an earlier start where he's been brought in his last couple of stops in training camp, where he's getting a chance to get acclimated now during OTAs. And I like the confidence that he showcased. And I like where he's at. It seems like he's in a good headspace. But I don't think that you can look at this room in totality and feel like in 2022 it's better than 2021. I'm not concerned with the room. I'm excited about Gabriel Davis and him stepping up and having a bigger role. But I don't think it's better. You know, I think Jamison Crowder can do everything that Cole Beasley did, and I think he gives you a little bit more after the catch. But we saw Cole Beasley for like 3 years pair with Josh Allen to be a really productive quarterback slot receiver duo. We're hoping that Jamison Crowder can come in and do that. I think he can, but we don't know. I know that Emmanuel Sanders got frustrating at times last year, and it felt like he kind of aged out a little bit. But I don't think we can sit here and say that a rookie 5th-round pick in Khalil Shakir that I absolutely love, and I'm very excited for him to be part of the team. I don't think I can sit here and tell you that the 2022 rookie version of Khalil Shakir is better than the veteran 30-whatever-year-old version of Emmanuel Sanders in 2021. So if you want to talk yourself into this group being better in 2022, I think the root of your argument would have to be that Gabriel Davis's elevated play transcends some of those potential drop-offs. And you're calling Crowder and Beasley a 1-for-1 swap, and you feel like Emmanuel Sanders kind of aged out and wasn't effective down the stretch, and that fresh legs in Khalil Shakir plus Tavon Austin means it's a better group. I think I have to do too many mental gymnastics there for me to buy in. So I'll put it down as the Bills receiver core in 2022 is worse than in 2021, but it doesn't rise to the level of concern. It's just a lot of mental gymnastics that you would have to do to build a convincing argument that this group is better than last year's group. Again, I'm excited for it. I like it. Gabriel Davis is the wide receiver too. I think is going to be awesome. I think Crowder is going to be the answer in this slot. I like some of this depth in Shakir and Tavon Austin. Obviously, we know what Jake Kumaro is. I can't talk myself into it. Although, again, I'm not concerned. Don't you love a chewy, chocolatey brownie? What about a caramel brownie with caramel swirled on top? It's so good. Well, what if I told you that you can have all that chewy, chocolatey deliciousness plus 17 grams of protein? Well, you're in luck because caramel brownie bars are available at built.com right now, and you got to act fast because they're always a fan favorite. Forget about dessert. These are better than dessert. Plus, the macros are unreal. 130 calories, 17 grams of protein, and only 4 grams of sugar. The best part, caramel brownie bars are covered in 100% real chocolate for real. Like, you don't have to sacrifice tasty for healthy with Built Bars. You can have both. And all of Built's bars are made with collagen protein, which your body actually absorbs more efficiently and provides tons of health benefits. With Built, tasty is the new healthy. I have a deal for you. If you want to try out these caramel brownie bars, go to Built.com, use our promo code LOCKED15. You'll get 15% off your next order. Again, that's promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. So let's look at this offensive line and then kind of recap this offense as a whole. So in 2021, the Bills' offensive line consisted of Deion Dawkins at left tackle, Ryan Bates at guard, Mitch Morse at center, Darrell Williams at guard, and Spencer Brown at tackle. And then your primary backups were Cody Ford, Tommy Doyle, Bobby Hart, Ike Bacher, those players. In 2022, I'm going to go ahead and spoil it. I think it's significantly better. I don't think we're talking enough about how much better this offensive line is, how much more sensible the skill sets are that are assembled, and how much the coaching should be improved with the arrival of Aaron Kromer. Like, I am excited about this O-line. Deion Dawkins, Ryan Bates, Mitch Morse, those are all returning starters. Even Spencer Brown, a returning starter. Roger Saffold replacing Darrell Williams. Again, Ryan Bates with some seasoning under his belt now, coming in as a starter after signing a 4-year deal. But this depth is better. David Quessenberry. He's a good player. He's the Bills' swing tackle. Heck, he might start over Spencer Brown if Spencer Brown's injury stuff doesn't settle down. He's been the right tackle all throughout OTAs. Greg Manns, experienced backup interior offensive lineman. Ike Bacher's back. Bobby Hart's back. Tommy Doyle in year 2. Cody Ford, who there's a lot of momentum surrounding him working with Aaron Kromer and finally being healthy in an offseason to actually build and develop his skill set. This group is way better this year. It's deeper, and you don't have these mixed match skill sets. I've talked about this a lot, where when you've looked at this Bills offensive line in the past, you see a mix of zone blockers and gap blockers. This group, there's a defined prototype. There is a vision. There's a plan for the style of offensive lineman that this team wants to have. And that includes a lot more athleticism. When you have a mobile quarterback like Josh Allen, who is not quick trigger, that holds onto the football, that extends plays, having guys that can move laterally and have some twitch and quickness and athleticism about them is going to help. In addition to subscribing to more zone-based run concepts, where there was no plan for this run scheme. The plan for the run scheme in the past was for it to be multiple, which sounds good in your head, but if you're not good at zone and you're not good at gap, you're not going to be good as a multiple run scheme, even if you have good numbers in terms of box counts. I think that's a lot of why the run game didn't have the consistency we wanted under Brian Dable and Bobby Johnson. I think that's going to change drastically. And so I do think that this offensive line is decisively better this year in so many ways. And that includes guys like Ryan Bates and Spencer Brown and even a Tommy Doyle taking a step in their next season. And for Brown and Doyle, that's year 2. And for Bates, it's really that opportunity to enter the year as the starter with some really valuable experience from last year. So I'm really excited about this Bills offensive line. So where did we land? Quarterback, push, but maybe slightly worse. Maybe. You heard me wrestle with that already. Running back, better. Tight end, better. Offensive line, better. Wide receiver, worse, but not of concern. And like I said, you can build an argument there that it's better, but too many gymnastics and a lot more veteran experience with last year's group. I know Tavon Austin potentially improves that, and I'm really interested to see what they do with Tavon Austin and if he could be the punt returner and if he could be an X factor for the offense and what that means for Isaiah McKenzie. who I didn't even mention when I went through the receivers. Isaiah McKenzie obviously is a returning player, and maybe in an expanded role, he can be even more effective. But I think your Bills wide receiver room is really going to be tied to Gabriel Davis and what type of player he ends up being this year. And I'm very optimistic for what that can be. So that was fun. We'll do this for the defensive side of the ball tomorrow. And by the end of these two podcasts, we'll have a really good feel for what areas of the team are better, which ones are arguably the same, and which ones are potentially worse. But I feel like we're going to come away after 2 days of discussion on this quite impressed with how Brandon Beane improved this football team despite entering the offseason over the cap, right? Like had no cap space and late picks in the draft and still found a way, even with having to move on from some players that they had to cut outright and say goodbye to some long tenured players, that he managed to make this football team better. Pretty friggin' impressive, that Brandon Beane. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us here today on the podcast. Come back tomorrow. We're talking defense. Would love it if you took a second to rate, review, share, and subscribe to the podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, like this video. Make sure that you are subscribed. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you agree with, what you disagree with. And let's keep this conversation going. Also, don't forget about our Twitter community. If you're on Twitter and you're not part of the Locked On Bills Twitter community, look it up and join. And we have some fun conversations there as well. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us here today. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and I look forward to catching up with you again tomorrow.